Hello, I'd like to show you how you can make room shake in your game really easily, and at the end you're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. So I've got a player here and he's running around, and whenever I press space the room's going to shake. And I'll show you how to do this. It's really easy. Okay, so let's get started by making a new project. I'm going to call this Shake Tutorial and get that opened up. So before we get into this, it's good to think about how it's going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an object that basically is in charge of shaking the screen. So it's going to be a temporary object that lasts only as long as you want the room to shake. So the first thing that I want to do is a bit of setup of the room itself. So let's go into this room here. I'm going to change the background color just to something a little bit lighter. And now I'm going to put in some sprites so that we can actually see when the room is shaking. So let's create a sprite up here. Firstly, I'm going to make two different ones. I'm going to make one for the floor, and it's just going to be a solid color. And next, I'm going to make a little player sprite as well. I'm going to make a little Pac-Man dude, actually. Do this as quick as I can. There we go. So what we can do, so let's put these in our room. What you can actually do here is, because we don't have any objects set up, you can make what's called an assets layer, because in our instances layer here, you can't just put a sprite into it. However, if you make an assets layer, which is here, this one, now we've got a new assets layer, and you can actually put these in here, and they won't do anything, but at least you've got them. And I can just like stretch this floor out a little bit. I can make this Pac-Man a bit bigger. And so now they're just going to be in the room ready for us to see the shake. So if I was to run this now, it's not actually going to do anything, it's just going to look the same as that. Like this. And that's a good start. So the last thing that we need to do to our room is set up a viewport, because that is what we're actually going to be controlling with our object. That's how we're going to bounce the view around and make it look like the screen is shaking. So to do that, come down to the properties of our room, and we will go down here to viewports and cameras, enable viewports, open up viewport 0, and we're going to make the camera visible. So you can see here with this white outline, that's the camera. So if I was to run the game now with this new viewport and camera, you can see that it's including a lot of stuff that's outside of our room here. So first, to fix that, we will change the camera properties here to be the same as our room. So we need width to be 960 and height is 540. So now the camera is the same size as our room. Let's run that. And now everything that's in our room is all that's on the screen, but it's stretched. And the reason that's stretched is because our viewport, which is this actual window, is not the same size, it's not the same dimensions. So it's stretching the screen to fit. To fix that, let's also make the viewports the same size as our game room. 960, 540. And now if we run this, it's gonna be normal. Perfect. So this is a really good starting position to test our shake object. So let's make the shake object. Let's go to Object, Create Object, and we'll call it Object Shake. And I'm going to make a sprite for this object as well for now, which is just going to help us with testing, so we can see when it exists and when it doesn't. So let's make a sprite. I'm going to just increase the size by quite a lot. And it's just going to say shake. And let me give it a little bit of spice as well. Excellent. And let's assign that new sprite. I guess I should call it something as well. Sprite shake. Nice. So let's put this new object into our room. Make sure we go into the instances layer. You can't actually put objects into an assets layer. So let's go to the instances layer and put this shake object in here. Now, if we run that, it's just nothing's going to happen yet. Obviously, we haven't made any code. So let's go back to our shake object and go into the create event. And let's do a bit of setup here. So just in the same way that objects in GameMaker have their own built-in variables like speed or their X and their Y position or their direction, the viewport that we set up in the room also has some built-in variables, and we're going to be using two of those. So the ones we're going to be using is, you can see them all here. We're going to use view export and view Y ports. So if we click on view export here, for example, the one that we're going to be using is view export 0, since in our room that's the viewport 0, so that's going to reference this one that we've made, which is the only one we've got. So by default, this is going to be set at 0, which is the top, it'll be the top left of your screen, right? So I'll show you what that means. If I change view export to be 100, let's see what happens to our room view. So it's pushed it over 100 pixels. Now, if we do the same thing to the Y port by going view Y port, I have to put in the 0 there because that's the one we're changing. If we change that to 100 as well, we'll see what that looks like. And this has pushed our room down. So if you imagine like this point here, the top left corner, that's what you're actually changing when you change the view here. So we want this to bounce around, and if it happens quickly, then it's going to look like the room's shaking. So we can get rid of these. So we actually only need two variables in our create event. Whenever we make the shake object, we're going to need to decide how long we want it to last for, and also how big the shakes are going to be. So for the duration, we'll make a variable for that. Shake duration equals, and we'll say 10. So this is going to be the duration in frames. And if you wanted it to be in seconds, what you could do is do room speed times however many seconds you want it to last for. But for now, let's keep it at 10 frames. And then to change how big the shakes are going to be, we can make another variable called shake amount. And let's set that to 10 as well. And this is going to be the size of the shakes in pixels. And that's literally everything we need in our create event. So let's move into the step event for the rest. So what we're going to do in this step event is we're going to bounce the view export and the view Y port around a little bit, and that's going to give our shake effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is create two temporary variables. One's going to be called shakeX, and the other one's going to be called shakeY. And I'm going to set these to be equal to a random number between minus shake amount and plus shake amount that we defined in the create event. So we type down random range minus shake amount, comma shake amount. And we will do the exact same thing for the shakeY. So I'll copy and paste that. So that's going to pick a random number between minus 10 and 10. And then we will just add that number to our current view export and view port. View export 0 plus equals shakeX, and view port 0 plus equals shakeY. So this right here has literally given us our shake, so we can test it now. So you can see it's a little bit crazy. You can see here as well that the room's kind of traveling. So we can fix that really simply actually. If we change this, instead of plus equals, if we just set it to be equals the shakeX and shakeY, then it's just going to bounce around in that top left corner. So it's not going to travel and give those weird artifacts. So just like that, we've got our shake, but obviously it's lasting forever, so let's fix that. So every frame we will take 1 away from the shake duration. Shake duration minus minus. And then if shake duration gets to 0, then we will destroy the object. If shake duration is less than or equal to 0, then instance destroy. And we can test that. Nice. Now this is almost perfect. I want to show you one way in that it is imperfect. So let's change the duration to be room speed so it lasts for 1 second. And we're going to make the shake amount a lot bigger as well. So I'm going to run this. And as you can see, we've finished in a position that we don't want it to finish. So we need to make sure that whenever the shake object gets destroyed, that it resets the view export and view port back to where it was to begin with, which is just in the 0, 0 position. So if we go to the object shake again, and in the destroy event, this is going to be called once whenever the object is destroyed, and we will just set view export 0 equals 0 and view port 0 equals 0. And if we test that again, the room should go back to normal once the shake object is destroyed. And it does. So that's great. So as you can see, it's really easy to get the room shake working. That's really all there is to it. What I'm going to do now is quickly make an example where you have a player who actually creates the shake event or the shake object, just to give you a bit of a better idea how you can actually implement it into your game. So I'm going to make a player object, call it object player. The player can be a Pac-Man since we've already got it made. Let's give him some movement. I'm going to give a variable input equals keyboard check vk right minus keyboard check vk left. So this will just let us move left and right. And then x plus equals input times 5. Oops, there we go. And I want this player to be able to create shake objects. So let's say spacebar does that. So if keyboard check pressed, and then put in vk space for the spacebar, then we'll create the shake object with instance create layer, and we can put it just on the same x position, the same y position, and the same layer as the player, and then what are we creating? The object shake. Now let's put the player into the room in the instances layer here. So here's our player, and then we'll get rid of this shake object that the game spawns with. And let's test this now. Oh, let's see what I've done here. I need to say x plus equals input, not x equals input. So let's test that now. Okay, so we're moving around. Okay, this shake's a bit extreme, but let's reduce that a little bit. Make it something a bit more sensible. So let's say the 10 was pretty decent. And have a little go with this. Nice one. And you saw before that you could have like more than one shake object at a time and it still works nicely. And one last little detail that you might want to change is to get rid of the sprite on the shake object so that it's invisible. And I'll show you that as well. Here you can see it's all still working nicely. One last thing that I want to show you is that this all works perfectly whenever our entire game room is the same as our viewport size. You know, it's all, our whole room is on the screen. But say you had a game where the width of your room was actually a lot bigger than just one camera width. So if we change the room width to something much bigger, oops, say 3000, and then let's spread out the floor a little bit. I've gone into the assets layer again. I'll just make that a bit bigger. And let's make a couple more of these Pac-Man into the room. And we're going to set up the camera to follow our player. And the option for that is just down here. Object following, putting the player there. And now let's test this. And you'll see that this works just as well for a situation like this. So if we move over here somewhere, the shake still works. It doesn't do anything crazy. It's all still working for you nice. So I hope you found that useful and it was fairly easy, and I will see you in the next one.